G'day viewers and welcome to the Horsepower Factory and the very first episode of Too Much Ain't Enough. This is the series where you'll get to be a fly on the wall as we build some of Australia's toughest street and off-road cars. Now some of you may remember us from back in the day on TV shows like OZGarage and even further back like Gasolene. Well, in 2026 we're bringing back the same energy.
Okay, so now that I've just had a facelift, wow, what a difference that makes.
But this time it's going to be even bigger and better with new builds, upgrades, tech tips, product reviews and a whole heap of other car related content. So if that's your thing, you've come to the right place. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on an episode. Now there's an old saying that goes, if you don't know where you're from, you don't know where you're going. So before we dive into the new series in 2026, we're going to kick things off with a look back to the past with classic clips from OZGarage and Gasoline, basically for those of you that don't know us to get to know us, and for those of you that do know us, a little bit of a trip down memory lane. So let's wind back the Wayback Machine to 2009, where the guys are gearing up for Horsepower Heroes. And one of our most popular builds and most famous builds, the Horsepower Hero legend, Mr. PSI.
Alright, I'm just adjusting the tappets up here on Mr. PSI. I'm just doing some pre-dyno checks to make sure it's all good before we put on the dyno later this afternoon. And the reason for that is things change and we haven't run it up for such a long time. It's good to check everything over, make sure everything's good before we do run it up. And the exercise today is going to be to make sure we've got the same power as what we had last time we ran it up. So we've got a good baseline to start with. And then from there we'll be playing with cam timing first and then maybe changing the camshaft to try and get some more power out of it. Now I'm just adjusting the intake tappets to 10 thou and the exhaust tappets to 12 thou. Alright, and move on to the next one. Alright, what I'm doing here is tying the car down. Obviously a car with this much horsepower, like we're pushing for 2,000 horsepower, it's very hard to make it, the tyre actually grip on the rollers. It's very easy to get wheel spin. So we've got to tie it down extremely hard into the front and rear roller. So what I'm doing first, I've got a chain which is on a pulley system, which the pulley's down in between the rollers, and I'm just going to hook that over there. Now that chain is attached to the airbag system down here, which just pulls on it's got about 100 pounds of pressure pulling on the chain, which in turn pulls on this bolt, which pulls the tyre down into the middle of the rollers. And we've also got straps, which I've got a strap going through here, which is hooked onto one of the hooks, which is already on the car. And that's to hold the car back into the rear roller. And on top of that, we might even run another strap down the ramps and over the front wheel to try and hold the car back. It's quite excessive, but that's sort of what you've got to do with a car with this much horsepower. If it was like a 300 kilowatt car or something, you wouldn't need half this stuff, but something like this needs a lot of effort to hold it on the rollers. Alright, I'm just setting the tyre pressures. In shootout mode you've got to have the tyre pressures at 40 psi, but I think I'll set them to 50 because in the past we've found the high pressures to be beneficial to minimise tyre slip on the rollers. The next thing is to hook up all the sensors that are fed through the dyno, so I can monitor what's happening to the engine through the dyno. The first one is the boost pressure hose, engine RPM, and also injector duty cycles, which is just basically the time the injectors are open versus the time that they're shut. And all this stuff just lets me monitor everything through the dyno, which is very helpful. After you've done a run, you can go back through it and see if there was any issues anywhere. All right, I'm going to give you a brief rundown on how the dyno works for those of you that don't understand how they work. The main thing that you look at when you're drawing a graph on the dyno is obviously the power. The red line there is the power curve. Now that is graphed along the bottom here against road speed or RPM, whichever way you want to do it. And the graphing on the side here is horsepower or kilowatts if it's in metric. Now you can graph it against a lot of things, like we've got torque in this case. As the example there is torque. But on a car like this, boost pressure is very important. So you can bring up the boost pressure. And you can see there, that's the boost pressure there. So it's got maximum boost at maximum RPM, with 30 pounds of boost. One of the important things is the weather station. So what it does is it measures the temperature of the room, the humidity of the room, and the barometric pressure of the day, which changes day to day with the weather. It's a wireless weather station, so it's always adjusting the temperature, the baro and the humidity, which what that does is it changes the correction factor to keep the power consistent. So an example would be on a 0 degree day in the middle of winter to a 40 degree day in the middle of summer, you should have pretty much the same power. This is a dual retarder dyno. It's got two retarders, one there and one here, which can handle a lot of horsepower. Which is an advantage obviously over a single retarder dyno, which most shops have got. What this is here is the retarder obviously. These two things are the rotors, and the yellow things in the centre are magnets. It's called an eddy current dyno. And what it basically does is the magnets control a load by trying to slow down these rotors. And when they do that, in turn the magnets, this lever here, which is attached to the magnets, is forced down onto the load cell, which is down here, which might be out of reach of the camera. But what that does is that the load cell is calibrated through the computer within the dyno. So the more this lever basically pushes on the load cell, the more power is shown on the screen. This is a hand controller, so I can pretty much control everything I need to from inside the car. Some of the main functions is speed. You can go up and down in 10 kilometre increments, 1 kilometre increments if you go side to side. So that allows you to very accurately hold an RPM and load point, which is good for engine mapping. You can sit in the one load point and get your fuel right or get your timing right or whatever. So to do a basic power run, all you would do is get to the RPM you want to start the run at. You hit load, hold your foot flat to the floor, wait a couple of seconds, and then hit ramp. And that'll run the car through a predetermined ramp speed, which is just how many kilometres per hour per second. And you can adjust the speed of that. At the end of the run, once you've got to where you want to back off, you back off and at the same time hit the load hold button, and that just holds a steady load to bring the RPM back down. There is a lot of other stuff in there that we use, but basically that's what we do. All right, we've just done the first shakedown run. We just ran it off the actuators, so no boost control, and it made 950 horsepower with no dry ice. Now the first thing we do after we run up a car like this is check the data. And the good thing about this car is it's got an M800 Motec computer, which Marty wired in pre-Summernats last year. And the cool thing about that is it's got everything in the engine you could want to monitor is, you can monitor. Examples are obviously engine RPM, but you've got fuel pressure, oil temperature, throttle position, all that sort of stuff. So it's really good. And what we do after the run is we go through it and just check everything, like check the lambda from bank to bank, check the boost pressure, the intake temperature, and just make sure everything is as it should be. And if everything's good, then you know, we'll add more boost and put dry ice in it and make more power.
Yeah, I'm sitting here in Mr. PSI, a car that we built for Lyle Lemon last year, just before the Summer Nats. It was sort of his dream, his car. Together we sort of devised a plan and created what people might have known now as Mr. PSI. The car, you know, brings us a lot of joy, but at the same time, there's a lot of pain attached to this car now that some people may or may not know, but Lyle passed away at the start of this year. In quite tragic circumstances, leaving behind you know, his wife and 2 young kids, and it really is a car that we put a huge amount of effort into. And I spoke to Lyle's wife later this year, and we really decided that we wanted to campaign the car at this year's Summer Nats, basically to live Lyle's dream for him, just to do something in respect for him. You know, he was someone who just absolutely loved his cars, lived and breathed his cars. Not only did he own this, but he also owned a silver VX Commodore that was set up for drag racing that runs in the low 9s. You know, we were just lucky enough to build this car for him, and I suppose the results that we've achieved with this car so far have been pretty amazing. The first Summer Nats it went to, which was last year, was it came second, and made just over 1,700 horsepower at the wheels. For us, it's a labour of love, and we just want to show him, as I said, our respect by just doing this one thing for him. It's really nothing in the scheme of things, but I think he would appreciate it and really be chuffed if we could, you know, achieve some of the dreams that he had. So the boys are going to be working hard at it, and you know, we'll see how we go. But hopefully he's looking down on us, and that might carry us a long way too to achieving some of these results. So we've just finished doing a couple of shakedown runs. We've sort of got the car to a power level that's manageable. We've got it running around 25 pounds of boost and making just over 1,000 rear wheel horsepower. The reason we're doing that is so that as we make changes, we can get some repeatability back into it and know if what we're doing is making a difference, or whether you know, it's the change and not wheel spin or something that can happen when you start to push the power level right up into above 1,500 horsepower at the wheels. So yeah, so basically the purpose of today is we're doing some testing, and Paul is just making some changes to the cam timing at the moment. He's moving the cam timing around 6 degrees. This engine, we set it up with a Gasolene belt drive, which enables us to externally change the cam timing. Normally a traditional engine would have the cam sprocket and everything hidden behind the timing case, and if you wanted to make a change, you'd have to remove all that, make your change and then reassemble it. But Gasolene have produced a belt drive which sits on the outside of the engine, and we can adjust that sprocket pretty much on the fly to give us a result. So we're just making some changes at the moment, 6 degrees to the advancing the timing of the cam, and we'll see what difference that makes. Now, traditionally we know that changing the cam timing can move the power band around. I suppose what we're trying to do is move the power band up further, because being a dyno car and a car that's making peak power, we're not really that interested in bottom end or mid-range torque. We're really looking for peak power, so hence the changes that we're going to try and make to see what impact that has. Failing that, we've also got another camshaft we wanted to try in this car, so that's something else that we may still try. But at this stage, we're just going to take baby steps. We'll try changing cam timing, and then from there we'll see what power difference it has, and you know, make some further decisions once we've collected that data.
So how cool is that car, hey? Now, here's a really special one. This is the first time that we were ever on national TV, our very first episode of Gasoline.
A little bit about this car. It's a car that we've transformed over the years. Started off as a naturally aspirated 427. Customer wanted more power, so we actually put a supercharger on it, changed the engine to a 402 cast iron block, ran that for a little while, made sort of 950 rear wheel horsepower. Then last year he approached me and said he really wanted to do better this year at the Summer Nats. And so we have built a new engine for him, still cast iron block, some pretty trick bits in there. We've got obviously a forged crank, acrylo rods, we've got some CP forged pistons, big camshaft, which probably won't divulge the specs on. Probably the main feature you see is this T106 thumper, rated to just over 2,000 horsepower. Big single turbo, obviously bit unique. A lot of these sort of LS1 V8s you see twin turbo, but we decided to do something a bit different and go for a big single. Got the dry ice intercooler, which is new technology for us, something we've been playing with for the last 6 months, and certainly is proving to be an awesome way of intercooling. So today the challenge is going to be to try and push the boundary on good fuel, find out where our limits are, find out how much ignition timing the engine wants on the desired boost that we need to make the power that we're hoping for. You can see the level of commitment that some of these guys have, and certainly this customer's no different. You know, there's big money tied up in the engine, intercooling, turbo. It still runs a standard 6-speed T56 gearbox, but with a triple plate clutch. Rear end's been modified slightly. All the fabrication on the exhaust, as I said, was done by us. It's got a single 5-inch dump pipe going into a twin 4-inch system. And all in all, it's just purpose-built an absolute monster, which you'll see no doubt soon. So I suppose we'll find out what it can do. Okay, so what we're doing is filling the dry ice intercooler. Just out of interest, this dry ice intercooler holds nearly 30 kilos of dry ice, which I suppose on average would normally last maybe 2 or 3 runs, but on each run you'll start to see the intake temps climb ever so slightly, but it's a pretty amazing intercooler. You'll see that with it fully packed and soaking, we might see intake temperatures at the end of a run still you know, below 0. And it's a little bit of a tedious job to pack it, but the benefits are so great that it's worth it, especially for a car like this where we're really trying to push the boundaries and make as much power as we can on pump gas. The intercooler starts to play just a massive role in helping us to try and maintain detonation and make more power. It's the first time we've ever used dry ice intercooler, and got to say it's just an amazing intercooler technology. Sort of something that we're learning about as we go, and certainly today we want to try and understand a bit more about properly packing this, because we've never actually fully packed it with 30 kilos. Normally we only have maybe 15, and on 15 we're still seeing minus 30 or minus 40 degrees. So you can see that's starting to freeze over on the sides. You can see it's getting a nice frost building up around the outside of the intercooler. So we'll just let that sit maybe for another 5 minutes. It's already starting to get obviously down to the right sort of temperature, and then we can start to run it and see where we are.
I can be alright.
Yeah, so you can see what happens. Basically, just warming the car up and starting to ramp it up. Got up to about 630 rear wheel horsepower, and then yeah, the tyre let go, as you can see now. It's one thing that we've actually been playing with a lot, testing different tyres and wheel diameter, sidewall, and you can see one of the problems with the low profile 19-inch rim here is that there's such little sidewall, and that's actually what's failed. And I believe the reason that it's failed is that we're having to tie the car down so tight to stop it from wheel spinning, because, you know, when we're getting up around the 1200, 1300 rear wheel horsepower mark, the tyre obviously wants to spin on the roller, so we're having to really tie it down with our tie down system, so it's hard into the tyre. And when you actually watch one of these cars on the dyno with that sort of power and you look at the sidewall, the sidewall is deforming that much. It is unbelievable. You know, you think of how strong a car tyre is. Well, it is just stretching like a piece of licorice. It's mind-boggling, and I think really we're just exceeding the design limitations of the tyre. And so now we've taken the 19s off for obvious reasons, and we're now putting a 16-inch rim on with a slightly bigger sidewall, which was one of the tests we were going to do today, to sort of see if we can get away with not having to tie it down. The reason being that the tyre can deform around the roller a little bit more and hopefully give us a little bit more surface area to grip. So we're just in the process of putting them on the car now, and fingers crossed we can actually do some full power runs. Okay, so on that run there, which was our second run with the new tyres, admittedly they're new tyres, so they're probably going to be a little bit greasy, but you can see we only got up to about 970 rear wheel horsepower. She was sort of climbing okay, although it does look like it might have had a little bit of slip along the way, and it got to basically, yeah, 970, and then it's just let go, and you can see the graph spike up where it's wheel spun, and then it's come back down and the run's over because at that point the tyres lost contact with the roller. But so we're just going to try a couple of things now to try and stand the tyre up a bit straighter by chocking the rear control arms, and we'll just check tyre pressures, re-tension the straps and give it another run. As I said, the tyres are brand new, so they're going to have a little bit of a greasy exterior on them, and the little knobbly bits and things which we sort of got to get off. So yeah, anyway, we can see that we're sort of heading in the right direction, and we'll get there.
See, that's supposed to be closed. Right. The next little probably at the nut out. Can you have that like extended
Yeah, we've just got a couple of things going on. Just blower valve keeps freezing over because the dry ice intercooler, as I said, we're getting temps, minus 40. Blower valve opens obviously, and then it gets stuck open, frozen open, and then we've got no boost. So we're going to have a bit of a look at what we can do with that. It's lost the belt again for some reason, so we've got to have a bit of a look at that and fix that up. I think on that run it made about 1100 odd rear wheel horsepower, which is not sort of where we were, because really we haven't changed anything, and it was making sort of mid 1200. So we've got to have a bit of a look and see what's going on. So we're just running through some data and going to check out a few things. So we might just take a bit of a break, get things organised, and come back and have another go. So it seems like we're starting to make some progress, sorting out a few of the little bugs that we've got. Obviously we had some issues with the fan belt, which we've now resolved. Seems to be holding together. We've made some modifications, further mods to the rear suspension to try and allow the tyre to sit flatter on the roller. But you can still see on the pink line here where it comes up, gets to sort of 1140 horsepower and goes flat. I still believe we're getting some tyre spin, wheel spin there. Yeah, just indicated by, we know that this is what would be traditionally the power curve, and although we're making a little bit more here, I'd put that down to maybe having a bit more dry ice in the intercooler, but here it sort of goes flat, and I believe we are getting a bit of tyre spin. So just going to try tying it down a bit differently again, try some different tyre pressures maybe, and yeah, give it another go.